can start. Thank you so much for all the distinguished speakers for joining in this time. Besides your crisis and BCP situation down, thank you so much. We thought that this is something very important where the WFM professionals. We have got around 154 registration. Most of them have joined from India, Manila, US, Europe, Australia, and also from Singapore. All the senior folks have joined us. I think there's a need where we can give them the insights that what we are really doing, and there'll be some questions at the end. And I'm sure that this is going to be insightful. Thank you so much for each one of you joining and taking your time out. Let's make this insightful and sharing good knowledge and good experiences from our end. Thank you so much. I think Sunil, we could start with your presentation. You can take the control.
Thank you. And I'm requesting for the control.
Done.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Please
Sunil,
let me know when it turns up on.
Yes, Sunil happens to be HIPEC head of Verint. Verint happens to be one of the top leading products in WFM. They've been rated as #1 as per the Gartner since last few years. They've been one of the market leaders. Let's hear something which Verint is offering for WFM solutions. That in this situation, they've been really contributing a lot. Over to you, Sunil.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shivab. Thank you for promoting me as well as the head of Verint, which I'm not actually. I'm just the direct practice for back office and retail in Verint. I do that for the Asia region, and I have been taking care of the WFM practice for quite some time. I mean, since the day of Blue Pumpkin and thereafter. So that's me. Quickly, I will do an introduction to Verint quickly at the end. I understand we are all busy and you have taken time out to meet us here. It's great to meet you. And earlier this year, we had a big meeting in Philippines where I think we had 100 people in the same room and discussing ideas, some of them around work from home at that time as well, even before COVID came in. And this hi-fi you see actually is just my wishful thinking. You might say, to be in the same room and have a discussion in person. But I think this is a safer way of meeting today. So I think everyone is going to talk about it, and there have been on the forum as well discussions on what are the challenges we are facing today. I think the first challenge which everybody is grappling to, and hence everybody's hands are full, is on the change that we see now is that we want to bring work to the individuals. I mean, earlier we were always planning for having the right number of individuals to address work. But today we are seeing this requirement all of a sudden that people are working from home. How do I get the work to them? And it's easier in the contact center space, BPO space, where we're handling calls. But for the non-voice or GICs or the back office operations, this is turning out to be a big problem. But eventually we know the IT is working full time on this, and everything will work out. And once that does work out, and it's beginning to already, and many people are telling us that BCP is settling down, and we have to look at how do we start managing this particular new workforce that we have, or rather, it's the old workforce working in a new environment, which brings its own set of challenges. I think for BCP, we will have a lot of automation coming in. There might be virtualized employees, that is, robotics coming into play for taking care of some of the load eventually. But as more and more employees work from home, the challenge of remote management is kicking in. And that remote management is what is giving us the problem of, multi-pronged problem. Most of this related to the employee themselves are not used to this kind of show. We don't know how they are being productive now. Earlier, we had a supervisor who used to walk with them, walk behind them, look at their productivity, guide them, coach them. And all that structure has broken down all of a sudden, almost overnight. And with this new working scenario, we don't know what are the new performance standards we should be setting. There are operations in GIC which are reporting slightly higher productivity. And the reason for that is because people are working from home, they're giving more time to their production. They are able to handle, stretch their time. People are doing shifts, split shifts. All this is coming into play, and hence the old standards of performance may not be, valid anymore. Well, hopefully this will be a short period, but we do see that work from home will be a model which will exist in some form or the other going forward. And process compliance, productivity compliance, standards, these will be key areas that we have to focus on. On the same side, I mean, if we think a little bit ahead and we say that, yes, this environment will continue to persist, and these are WFM issues that we will talk about. Employee engagement is going to be a very key aspect. I mean, employees are working from home. We do not know, are they feeling isolated? I mean, if I was a agent and taking calls, but sitting between 500 people, and all of a sudden I'm holed up in a room and putting on my headsets like this and taking calls, how is this going to work out, production-wise, or is the employee going to get disengaged or isolated in, any manner? And how do we keep them engaged? That'll be the other thing to look at. I'll try to address these to some extent from our perspective, Verint's perspective, how we can be of service to the industry. Now, this, I think, was the conversation I was having when we had the GWFM, forum in Philippines, when we had that big discussion. At that time, we were talking about that how historically, when we look at it, more and more people are adopting work from home, and this is before COVID. And this is a must, and we have to eventually, grapple with it with the new kind of workforce that's coming in. And COVID all of a sudden has changed that. And the discussions we were having at that time were around, planning well. How can we plan for it? Can we create the right forecast for such scenarios? Or can we create better staffing plans on that? And how do we monitor these remote employees? And I think we did not have much discussion on a very important aspect, that was empower, because in our minds, we were thinking only a small portion of our population will work from home, which is not the case right now. And therefore, our perspective is that, at least my perspective is that we will have to rethink some of the WFM aspects rather than focusing purely on the forecasting, scheduling that we have done in the past, which is number crunching, as well as trying to ensure that, we are able to forecast a workload which can be met with the right number of people. We'll have to start focusing a little more on people side. And that is a element that probably we don't cover well with WFM in many aspects, and therefore it may require us to have, open up our thought processes, make it a wider net around how WFM can and the WFM team can get involved in that and, fix that issue. So if I go ahead with this thought, I mean, I know for a fact that many people today will be, talking about, and they are industry experts. I mean, the panel itself is very, very distinguished, and there will be a talk about how do we project forecast for this kind of scenario. I mean, we don't have a precedent for such an event, and hence we do not have any historical patterns which can cover this. And I will leave it to the experts to cover that. So if we take the element of forecasting as something we will have to grapple with, because I think the volumes will come in as they are coming in. And when we start looking at how we're going to, cater to the supply of versus that demand, I think that's where we'll have to be intuitive and, solutions should be able to, or your working patterns should be able to accommodate schedules which are flexi shifts. We've been talking about extended shift hours, but then there is always a government regulations which come into play and which needs to be catered for. And I think this work from home will also give us the opportunity to look at part-timers. So if I look at the part-timers as an opportunity for us, because currently in our scheduling patterns, we always have these full-time shifts which come in. There are very, very few part-timers, at least in the Asia region. And now here we have the opportunity of people working from home. I mean, they have the flexibility of working for 6 hours or 9 hours, or maybe sometime 10 hours, as long as their weekly 40 hours are met. And this flexibility or flexi shifts should allow us to cater well to the volumes to some extent. I can say so, at least for the, I would say for the back office piece or non-voice pieces. Even for the contact center or the voice pieces, I think these will be very, very suitable items to look at, and the solution, Verint solution takes care of that. Opportunity lies also in bringing more diversity. I mean, there are individuals who have never been able to travel because of their disabilities. We can bring them on board. There is a wider pool of skill set that we can look for in the long run. And they can be given a different set of schedules. They can be given different sets of work environment they anyway have from working from home, but the work rules can take care of that as well. I think that's one key element which will come in. And of course, the conversation we kept having in industry, many people told us that, especially for the non-voice pieces of operation, that there is so much unmonitored activity right now. I mean, we know that the individual is on call. We don't know whether that, somebody told me actually, we don't know whether the individual is taking call from the designated space in his home because there is security concern around this. Someone told me that, we also want to monitor what is going on their screen. Are they, is there a notepad open on their application? Well, in most environments, it will be secure. But if we wanted to have a visibility, a proper visibility of adherence, which WFM focuses on as one of the key areas of efficiencies, we can do that using their activity, which is on their desktop. For example, if an individual is taking a call, he or she, are they in the right application at that moment or not? And this is a big change from how we have monitored employees in the past. We see them on phone in after call work, and that's about it. But now we can have a deeper insight into how they are conducting that work without recording their screens, which is a possibility anyways. But for many reasons, on people working out on dongles, screen recording might not be an option at the moment, but eventually that may come into play. But today, if we want to monitor individual, this will be a key areas to focus what they're doing on their desktops while they are conducting their work, be it call or any other media that they're handling. And this is more important basically for the non-voice GICs and many KPOs, or as you may call them, or GSC or SSCs. These industries or non-voice back offices, they will need to be monitored in a very different manner. Remember, the supervisor is not there, and the employees are disconnected from the supervisors. There is no observation, there is no coaching. Everything seems to have fallen apart, and we need solutions which can look at what is going on the desktop, whether it's in compliance, whether they are using the right application, and whether these applications are productive or not. And simple things like measuring how much was the idle time during the day. I mean, employees are saying that they are working 10 hours during the day. Yes, they might be logged in for that much time. Their start and end time might be 10 hours. But within that, how much time was in production and which application got used? And we do have a way of making this into a time model where we can see which applications are categorized as productive and some are categorized as non-productive. And there might be associated idle time for non-productive applications, or rather non-productive essential applications like Excel or calculators. And these can together form a time model where we get a greater visibility, a deeper visibility of how employees have contributed to the production. And this is not associated with the login time alone. This is associated with the actual production applications they've been using. And there have been many studies from our customers, which at least for non-voice has given excellent results by identifying capacity which has been underutilized. So if we are doing WFM for non-voice, one of the challenge has always been the baseline. And these tools can give us excellent visibility on what the baseline is, where the opportunity lies as the employees work, not from our offices, but wherever they're sitting. Now, till now, we've always focused on, the WFM cycle of planning, executing, monitoring. But the key element, I think, going forward is going to be the employee engagement itself. And the more we involve the employees, the more they are in sync with the operation, it's going to be a positive results for the operation itself. For example, every time an employee swaps his shift with someone else, we've just taken care of unplanned shrinkage to some extent. If, for example, if I was not going to come to office tomorrow for some reason, but I did swap it with someone, I got the operation gets the FT that they needed. And these are tools we provide, with the mobile apps, where employees can interact and be part of the WFM process itself to some extent. They can apply for time off, they can apply for shift swaps, they can even request a time change in their shifts if at all that is possible. And it is all governed by the central WFM team. It is not that they take care of the scheduling themselves, but there are auto approval rules which will take down immense amount of workload which is there on the supervisor and the forecasting and scheduling teams. And the idea here is to involve the employees. Because they're sitting remote, we don't know how much time, how isolated they are. Do they need help? I mean, in context help may be something with knowledge management systems that we offer help on, but just to interact with someone, just to share their piece of knowledge, or just to ask a question to a colleague is now becoming a challenge. And of course, you can use chat for that, or chat collaboration for that. But those are not curated forums. And it is essential in such environments to have curated forums where we do not have idle chat going on, if I may call it that, but a curated discussion between employees. And that, I think, is an important element. And lastly, I would like to talk quickly about the back office operation. Like I said at the very beginning, one of the challenges we are facing is that we have to now figure out how we deliver work to the individuals. And once those machines reach them, in the contact center, yes, the calls will reach them all the time. They may be I've got calls from centers from the mobile phones of individuals. So calling is not a challenge. And the ACD function can distribute calls to wherever, the individuals sit from. But what about the non-voice processes, which have worked and lived within Excel? How do we manage those? How do we distribute that work in a prioritized manner? And we should be able to manage the SLAs, should be able to manage the, how should I call, the queue reporting of that in almost real time. Anyway, back office never did that. And for us, for the customers that we have spoken to, some of them are reporting that it is a godsend for them, that people move to home, but for them it's seamless. The work still turns up on their desk, and the work is prioritized by the type of work item it is, by the type of customer or the geography. And all those rules are set in the back end, and the work just goes out to the individuals for completion. And they can watch how the completions are taking place, and the queue analytics is available. So we just saw quickly how we can look at it from the work perspective, employee perspective, or from the perspective of the workforce management team itself. So we can plan well, we can execute well, we can monitor well, and then of course look at how, if required, how do we push work to the employees on their desks when they are working remotely. And we do have many case studies. We have many success points around these kind of solutions that we offer. I did say that in last 1 minute, I would like to cover off who we are as a Verint. I know I've just exceeded my time, and I got a notification for that. Thank you, Shivam. Just quickly, Verint, we were introduced that we are rated very highly by the industry analysts like Gartner, Forrester. And there is a reason for it. We have, we are a very strong organization worldwide with 55 worldwide offices. We do almost 1.25 billion annually. I think we reported slightly more than that for the last year that we finished. And we are an organization which is proud of the fact that we put a lot of our money back into research and catering to the solutions that we showed, which address the industry need. And that's what we are proud of. And our mantra is we want to simplify, modernize, and automate your operations so that we can meet customer experience that you want to furnish and improve the operational efficiency of the operation, for you. So, and the idea behind this is we want to plan well. We can bring in automation in all parts of our solutions where required. And all the solutions that we are offering are cloud-based or on-premise based. The choice is yours. That's quickly from me, our perspective of how Verint can be of service during these torrid times of COVID. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sunil.
And
Thanks,
stay
Sunil.
safe.
Since we have very less time, over to Srikanth. Request you to just mute your screen and also your video. Over to Srikanth.
So you want?
Srikanth,
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ahead, Srikanth.
So again, hey, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I don't have any PowerPoint presentation. I will just speak for 10 minutes, and if any questions, I'm happy to take. So I'll cover the 4 to 5 areas. One is who we are, UI. Second one is how we are addressing the COVID situation right now. And the third one, most important, how we are preparing post-COVID situation, which is going to be more important for all of us. So coming back into who we are $40 billion professional services company, Ernst & Young, or UI we call it today. And we have 300,000 or 3 lakhs employees spread across 180 countries across the globe. And I have 2 responsibilities in EY. I'm the global talent leader for GDS, Global Delivery Services, as well as I'm the partner for enablement services delivery, which I'll be taking that role from July 1st. Then coming back into how we address the COVID situation or COVID-19 situation, EY as an organization today, 300,000 employees or 3 lakhs thousand employees across various countries work from home today. And how could we do that? We had a very strong BCP, business continuity plan in place. And we had a culture of working from home prior to COVID situation. In fact, 30% of our workforce, we encourage to work from home. That means at least one day, and some of the service lines, 2 days, they work from home. Even I work from home one day, and it's mandatory. When we configure our seating capacity, we are only given, if you have 100 headcount, we only give you 70 seats in the office. 30% of that seat supposed to manage through a churn working from home and working from office. So we have really mastered. We had a playbook on working from home, which was very helpful through the COVID situation. So we started our first report of COVID situation in China. We have a Dalian low-cost center. In early December, we started engaging our local leadership team to really address how do you really ensure that our employees are safe. That's the first and foremost priority for us. Our customers continue to get the continuity of services without any compromise on quality, productivity, or whatever the form of delivery we committed to customers. That was our priority. The third one is how do you really take care of the business? In this journey, do not destroy the business. Do not destroy the huge opportunity ahead of us, either brand or capability or credibility or relationship with our customers and different stakeholders. These were the guiding principle. So how well we are working from home? As I mentioned, 100% of the employees are working from home. We had a central steering committee which monitored how are we really enabling working from home in terms of all our employees are 100% laptop. So there was not an issue because that was the agile work environment we created. Prior to COVID situation also, none of our employees had a permanent seat. You have to really optimize, we call it as an agile seat. Every one of us, including leadership team, need to really book the seat when they are in office and really perform. In such situation, every employee were given laptops, so they are internally mobile in terms of workstations and offices and everything. In Bangalore itself, we have 4 offices. We keep on churning employees between these offices. So again, coming back into COVID situation, first we ensured that employees have all the tools, software and network available to perform working from home. And we institutionalized a survey where employees were asked to participate in the survey. They have to answer how is their network at home, how is their power backup, do they have all the resources to work. Then we asked certain objective questions or subjective questions. How was their productivity? Could you complete your day's work while you are in office versus house? Do you feel any differences? So we used to have a very subjective study conducted on productivity. I can share you the questionnaire and the outcome of that. Then we analyzed that and understood where the productivity losses are there. Like Vineet mentioned, I agree we have more hours, average 10 hours employees work from home, but that is a double-edged sword. It can come back to you in terms of overtime and in terms of productivity. You have more volume to do or more hours to do, but we started now looking into number of minutes or seconds you taken for a transaction wherever possible. Not all we can measure that. Then we also look at how employees are productive from volumetric as well as per task, what's the time they're taking. For example, in recruitment world, if I'm a recruiter making 10 offers while I was in office, am I making 10 offers or more or less? Second one is every transaction. For example, how much time I take to download a resume from LinkedIn. It's say 1 minute or 30 seconds. In home, I may take little more because the quality of network is not there. So we have undertaken a lot of productivity analysis to ensure that after employees have been working from home, logging the requirement time, are they really productive? Then we moved in the next stage of working from home effectiveness. We started looking at employee, are they communicating to each other? Are they communicating to customers? Are they communicating to stakeholders? So we have done a lot of work on communication. We have excellent central communication team. We have prepared all the employee communication do's and don'ts on various aspects. When you get positive tested, what should you do? I got stranded in a country, what should I do? A lot of communication. We in fact over communicated. Our chairman, global chairman Carmen, used to really communicate twice in a week. Then our service line leaders, our area leaders, our talent leaders communicate to employees. So employees really appreciated our care and the message on communication. You are first, you are most important for us. The second one is connect. We want to ensure that employees are connected with their teams, with their managers. Like Vineet mentioned, some of the aspect of communication we really monitor through technology. Then are they connected with their stakeholders and their customers? So second one is after communication is connect. The third one is engagement. Are employees engaged emotionally and what you call rationally with their teams, with the organization, with their customers? So engagement was the third one. Fourth one was what you call it as wellness. And we have close to 47% of our employees are diversity, women employee. Of course, beyond women, we have all other aspect of diversity, differently able, blind, and a lot of things we do. So we want to ensure that our diversity, especially women working from home, they have children at home, their schools are not there, their servants are not coming in India. So how are they really managing that multi um, aspect of a working woman, including cooking, the servant is not there, cleaning, taking care of the kids, they are at home. Some of them are doing virtual learning and everything. How do you do that? So we spend phenomenal hours of sharing best practices, chair yoga, how to take care of your health and wellness in this difficult time, mental wellness, emotional wellness, social wellness in working from home. We cared a lot. The last one is we did not shy appreciating people who have taken over and above services in difficult times. Every week we recognize two types of over and above what recognition we have working from office, the exceptional contributors and spot award. And I monitor personally globally. Our people are recognized for the extraordinary heroism, what they have done it in this difficult time. We created a wall of fame virtually in a SharePoint where people share their case studies. For example, in Manila, my site leader for Manila stayed in Manila office for a week because most of the people who are staying in service apartment in Manila were not allowed to stay in service apartment. These employees came to office with their bed and toothpaste and laundry and everything, and they started staying in the office. So the site leader of Manila said, I want to be a role model. I want to be with these employees while they stay in office. So she stayed. So we published such stories in Wall of Fame to recognize and reward extraordinary contribution. So in summary, we are, like Vineet mentioned, I don't want to repeat what Vineet mentioned. We are working very well, working from home, thanks to our culture, our preparedness, our network. We use Team, Microsoft Team, Skype. Skype we retired. Now we are completely in Team. Team is working very well. We have remote infrastructure. Everything is working phenomenally well, and it can be a case study. 300,000 employees, very productive, working from home and access to their network and software and productivity tools are there. Then now we are focusing on engagement, connection, wellness. Now we are moving into creativity. While at home, can you be creative, collaborative with your fellow colleagues, and can you continue to drive innovation? We don't want to innovation to take back seat. So working from home, can you be not only meeting day-to-day deliverables, can you be creative, can you be innovative? That's what the focus we are. Now the last point I'll take 2-3 minutes to summarize is how well we are preparing um, to get out of COVID. What is the new world look like? COVID shall pass, isn't it? The China, for example, as we talk, our China center is back in office. And as on yesterday, 70% of the employees are back in office. So we have a playbook on how to come back to office. What kind of rules and regulations you need to follow, how much health you need to take care, what should be the density of the office. So we have a playbook coming back to office. So the second one, we are now working on a V curve. That's what the IWFM or workforce management, and we call people supply chain management and talent. How do we really prepare post COVID is what I'm focusing on. And we believe V-shape recovery will come. And I don't know where we are in the decline of V. If it is a V, I don't know what's the decline. I'm in here declining. I don't know whether I'm middle or further to come. And second one is, while that V-shape, the upward journey started, it will be phenomenally great opportunity for us. And we are preparing. We are doing workforce planning. We are looking at reskilling, cross-skilling, upskilling our people. I have been constantly in touch with Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, Accenture, IBM, many of the large-scale operation, understanding what they are doing in terms of promotion, merit increase, variable pay. And UI, we are very proud of our culture, and we call it as exceptional UI experience. It is yours to build it. So in this difficult time, we have EY badges, which is our skill development program. We find 30% of employees are upskilling other than working from home because they have some time. We are encouraging, we are pumping all our classroom training into virtual training. We converted many assets. So a lot of people are skilled. We are looking at optimizing the workforce in labor economics using profitability per employee. We are preparing for a sharp V curve while recognizing that we are in the downstream now of the V, and we want to not to do stupid things of layoff and but we will do the right thing for the employees, business, and for our customers. The last one, not the least one, we are very proud of exceptional UI experience, yours to build it. That's a tagline. So what we have done it in this difficult time, we have provided exceptional UI experience for our employees. We are touch with our alumni network. We are touch with our vendors. We are touch with our customers. We are touch with their employees, their families. And we found working from home. I'm not telling it's going to be a new norm. The 30% what we are working from home pre-COVID, we are planning to get 50 and 70. So that's a task. I'm doing it as a global workforce management leader and part of the global talent committee and a delivery organization. I'm going to really come back and reimagine a new ways of work and preparing for that V curve. Very happy to share any of our learnings in detail. Thank you very much. And if any question, one or two, I can take it. Otherwise, I have to sign off. I have another call. I'm very sure my capable colleagues in the panel will really address all your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Shrikant. Just have a few insights that what is the role of WFM leaders in the organization? If you could share some light on that, because we have fellow WFM joined from worldwide regions. So I mean, this will be some insightful learning.
Yeah, another important thing, working from home, it's not only our working from policy. Gopal is in the call. We have a very strong Gig Now platform where we engage a lot of freelancers working from home. So we build that platform internally. It's working very well. We are going to leverage that post-COVID also. We know that the mix of contractors, freelancers will be very high. We are preparing for that. Then coming back into your question, what is the role of IWFM? We call people supply chain management. It starts with workforce planning. We have 3 horizons of workforce planning: strategic workforce planning, operational workforce planning, and tactical workforce planning. And strategic workforce planning is for a period of 18 months to 24 months. And operational workforce planning is for a period of 90 days to 1.5 years. But we do quarterly workforce planning. Then operational workforce planning is past due 30, 60, 90 days and future due 30, 60, 90 days. So that's the workforce planning. In workforce planning, we are using a lot of tools, algorithm, and that function is maturing. And we have invested a lot in workforce planning over the last several quarters. The next one is demand management. We have a central demand management team who really ensures that the demands are created using workforce heuristics like pyramid, location, skills, and cost and everything. Then comes the experience management, that is resource management in industry. We call experience management. That is really internal fulfillment, internal, what do you call it as utilization, and a lot of such metrics we measure in resource management or experience management. The next function is called workforce optimization. We have a very strong labor economics model. Maybe I can walk you through later as a separate class, 2 hours, where we look at profitability per employee. There are 8 to 10 levers in profitability per employee. One is like rate card, then volume, utilization, life cycle management. If a person who is in run and maintain, can I deploy in consulting and projects, I can get better revenue. So how do you raise the revenue per employee? Then the cost per employee is the next lever. We have 7 levers in cost per employee. One of the lever is called pyramid management. And we have a very strong pyramid management metrics we are putting together, which include what should be the shape of the pyramid. It should be pear or a pyramid or diamond. Then what should be the construct of the pyramid? If I slice the pyramid like a DNA test, I do it. What's an average age of employees by slice or layer of the pyramid? Average experience, what's the cost, what is the skill mix, and everything. So this is what the people supply chain management or WFM. When I was in DXC, our friend who is already there, Rajiv, and we call IWFM, Integrated Workforce Management. In EY, we call people supply chain management. That reports to me, which include the workforce planning, demand management, resource management, and workforce optimization. And we have an excellent data layer or a data lake on talent analytics. We look at analytics from 3 perspectives: prescriptive, predictive, and descriptive. Like a doctor, when you go to a doctor, he will describe you, your height, weight, your blood pressure, your biometric. So describe. Then you predict. If you continue in sick this way, after 5 years you get heart attack, or your kidney will fail. That is predictive. Then he prescribes certain medicine and lifestyle to really ensure that you don't get into trouble. Similarly, in workforce analytics or IWFM or people supply chain management, we have prescriptive analytics. What is your pyramid? What is your utilization? What is your skill mix? What's your rate card? These are descriptive. Then we have 8 to 9 scenario. We predict if the situation continue, where you land in your labor cost, your pyramid, your utilization, your reskill, your internal churn, your customer satisfaction. So that is the prediction. We have algorithms and artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm use it predict. Then we'll prescribe. Okay, you have to do these 5 things: hire more college graduates, or introduce automation, or rotate people, or promote 30% more than what you do, and stop hiring external. So we have a very good analytics engine to describe, predict, and prescribe insight what is required for people supply chain management. And the last one, while we drive the people supply chain management, end goal is profitability per employee is improved. But we also have an equally important goal called provide exceptional UI experience to our people, right from candidate to alumina. That's also part of the experience management team. And that's what we are drive. I can share any number of data information on this. And gig now is also part of integral. We are seeing more and more people getting into gig rather than permanent employment. Thank you very much. I need to drop and look forward next session. And I will catch up with my colleague who is attending this call to learn what he has learned. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
So much, Mr. Kant, for your time. Really appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
We'll look forward for upcoming events with you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I request Vinit to start his presentation. Vinit, I'm going to have your slide up.
Okay, sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
You're fine. Go ahead.
Awesome. Great. So I think there has been immense constructs that have been talked about. I think Sunil and Srikanth have laid down the right level of perspectives. Just one quick comment. I know Srikanth is not there, but everything that he attributed to me was actually meant for Sunil, and it is absolutely an honor for Srikanth to have made all those comments being attributed to me. And Sunil, thank you for allowing me that privilege. So moving on to the context of WFM Leader in times of COVID-19. I think some of the important elements that will be a perspective for us to sort of think about, while there will be enough constructs that will be there with respect to the domains and disciplines of workforce management. Truly, in terms of pandemic, which we are actually experiencing right now, and is a completely non-business environment, which is driving the businesses crazy and economics crazy, and both at a macro and a micro level is having its own set of bearing. There is a wonderful piece of research, and it is almost about 93 pages that have been created and built by London Business School, and I think GWFM will be releasing that out as part of a post session distribution to everybody who had registered. And in summary, what I'm undertaking here is purely drawn from the parallel of what I believe, and this is my perspective purely, I believe should be the core role of a WFM leader. And what we are seeing as a first point is 4-value vector. And what does a vector actually do? It provides a direction, right? There is taking a very elementary class 7th physics approach, where you had a scalar quantity and you had a vector quantity. So a WFM leader is one who will obviously be driven at a vector level. Entire mathematical attributes, modeling, etc., that will always have direction that will need to be an important element. And what are those 4 values? I'll just touch upon them. Second construct would be, as direction becomes important, the role of a WFM leader has to necessarily be that compass, be that shining armor torchlight, or the guiding light or the guiding principle of a systems thinker. I think that becomes an important point, specifically when you are dealing with unknown of the unknown. And I would draw attention to everybody. Sorry, if people can go on mute, there's a lot of feedback. There's still, yeah, okay, I think this is better. Thank you. So the whole construct, unknown of unknown, comes and gets driven by the factor of a fantastic book called Black Swan, written 10 years ago, in form of describing what came across in 1928 by the famous German scientist called Hessenberg. And Hessenberg's principle of uncertainty has always formed the basis of most of the algorithms that have been built across. And we did hear Shrikant talk about prescriptive modeling. We talked about descriptive modeling. He talked about predictive modeling. I think the most important role of a WFM leader that will supplement to all the constructs that came across from Shrikant will be all about deterministic modeling, and what are the deterministic characteristics coming across from a systems thinking perspective. And it is important. I mean, we did hear of Shrikant talk of a V, where there was a dip. He did mention we don't know what is the stage of decline and then the uptake that is going to happen. Important point is to link and relate to the elements of a deterministic outcome that will be core and integral to WFM leader. Third context is transformer, and here the transformer is not about the business transformation. Transformer has basically, again drawing parallels to class 9th physics, has 2 important roles to discharge, right? A transformer has to step up or step down, number 1. Number 2, transformer ensures that the energy of the system actually steps up or steps down depending on what the requirement is. So 3 core contexts that are in my mind going to be the core differentiator in these times. And I would also want to draw the point in the second bullet of a cardinal principle, right? The 8 principles that are there as cardinal principles, I call them as octagonal model, or the Octavian model, or many people who have been part of my previous session would also call it as Sargam model, right? So the construct of second point is the reputation, and the reputation here goes beyond the over encompassing overarching brand, so to say. it is also about the legacy, it is also about sustainability, it's also about the credibility, all of them getting rolled up into one is always going to be greater than the tenure or life cycle of the crisis, or aggregated multiple set of crises that will continue to encounter the association. And why do I make that statement? The reason why I make that statement stems from the fact of a WFM leader, thought leadership, stemming from the fact that there is going to be uh, two broad segments. Segment A would be all about the ability and the capability of a WFM leader to undergo in a VUCA world. I'm sorry, there is a lot of distortion. I'm not sure if it is at my end, uh, but are everybody else also getting? I mean, are you all able to hear me right?
A little louder, Vineet.
Little louder. Okay. And in terms of distortion, is that something that only I am hearing, or is that multifaceted coming across from everybody? Okay, so I think it must be somewhere at my network. Okay, perfect. Is this volume okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Great. So I think the important element from a transformer standpoint, and where I was talking of reputation, reputation being a life of reputation being greater than the age of crisis. So purely from a systems thinking perspective, a WFM leader will necessarily have to act as a fulcrum in that entire broad spectrum of systems thinking, so to say. What is crisis? Uh, the attention will draw towards the fourth cardinal principle, which is all about HCF and LCM, right? So reputations are built or lost on grounds of quality, and role of a WFM leader, and here the quality is having a slightly contextual uh, contextual perspective here. HCF, obviously the acronym stands for highest common factor. LCM calls for another set of abbreviation. We all have read it, least common multiple, right? So the factor and the multiple that can be, I talked about step up and step down from a transformer standpoint. So a WFM leader has to be a catalyst who is able to maintain without directly participating in the reaction, uh, of accelerating or decelerating, stepping up or stepping down, and be that highest common factor which will aggregate and multiply, or be the least common multiple which would divide and minimize. So purist in form of linear programming professionals would call them as a simplex method, or a constraint driven drive which actually goes on to solve the problems. I think resilience and tenacity is key. Role of a WFM leader has to be driven by the fact in period of uncertainty, and in period of volatility, in period of ambiguity, in period of absolutely uh, the way to sort of look at it is in terms of what we have laid down over last 2 decades. And the reason why I bring that context is historically, when WFM leaders were just getting exposed to what was going to be a dot-com boom and a dot-com bust 2 decades ago. In reality, the unknowns that were getting determined and getting built up is what brought out the perspective of, if I can use the word, brought out the perspective of the whole systems approach onto managing the workforce. And it is obviously there will be talent, there will be competence, there will be upskilling that will be important to look at. There will be failed deliverables, and there is no point in focusing on service level where the capacity is constrained. So the whole point of managing the supply continuity is an important element. How does the supply continuity get impacted? How does the supply continuity get restored? How does the supply continuity gets restored in an artificial environment, in a constrained environment? And how does the supply continuity gets restored in the dimension of utilizing the resources which are least cost prohibitive, if I can use that word, or possibly and potentially coming across as an attribute which will ensure that businesses which are completely reliant on to clients and completely reliant on to customers, because there has to be an end customer of the client that will always be kept in mind. And I think we did hear from Verint where they have taken pride in the fact of being the customer engagement company, right? And so it's about engagement. It's all about engagement. We heard very passionately how Ernst and Young by Srikanth has been absolutely driving themselves towards managing the whole communication and over communicating across various circles. Organizations that have been very, very successful, and I would urge everybody to look at what LinkedIn and Twitter is talking about in terms of managing the whole COVID-19, and how 225,000 employees across the globe have been managed at Concentrix. I mean, I will not want to spend much time there, but principles of WFM, if they were not deployed and applied in a very coherent manner, in a very, very there were failures, right? I'm not saying everything happened hunky-dory. I'm not saying that it is over, and we continue to learn. And as I was just about to enter the seminar or the webinar right now, I did get a set of crisis call, and obviously that I'll be dealing in another hour. But the point is, failures, etc., are bound to happen, and the setup of 4 value vectors that I have left so far open, which I had touched upon when I started, is what I will want to bring across. But before we move there, I will also want to draw attention towards what is the 5th principle: courage and grit with empathy. I think that's an important role for a WFM thought leader. Respect and appreciate. Obviously, there are each of the words. I'm not getting into semantics. I'm not a thesaurus, nor have I ever claimed to be one. But the cardinal principles that will come across of coming from courage and grit with empathy, or respect and appreciate as a drive, very clearly has to be segment of conversational rules and conversation rules. Rules here is principles. Rules here is the law frame, or it rules, it reigns. It is absolutely the king, the ruler that gets associated with the ruling. Now, the 4 value vectors, first vector or the first vector value would obviously be, what are our employees and colleagues and workforce actually going to focus on? Point number 1, what is it that they want? What is it that the clients want would be the second value vector. Third component from a value vector point would be, what does the organization stand for, and what does the organization actually want in the drive there? Second would be, what do I as a WFM leader want? And convergence of all the 4 vectors at its union will be the sweet spot that has to be targeted by the WFM leader. So the point of intersection in terms of dealing with ambiguity, and in terms of specifically pandemic driven ambiguity, where supply continuity has to be kept into utmost focus, and where cash will always be driven. I mean, end of the day, we are dealing with pandemic, we are dealing with human lives, we are dealing with um, elements of what can come across as a huge eroder into the net worth of the organization, or huge eroder in terms of the reputation of the organization, whether organization is of the WFM leaders company, or it may be the organization which would be the client organization, or it would be in the interdependent setup of looking at the dimensions of government or community or hierarchy. And hierarchy is not the organizational hierarchy. Hierarchy here is basically the context of systems thinking of how a lower system with the latent energy would actually go ahead and transcend to move towards the higher energy setup, so that the equilibrium starts coming into play. I think these are some of those elements that I have talked about at a very ambiguous level. if I was to bring it down to a specific level, the vision of WFM Leader will have to be at a union of the 4 value vectors, and the role there would always be driven to remain into that union, so to say. The compass has to be for providing the direction for the WFM thought leader or WFM leader, and at the same point in time, the entire WFM community will have to seek up and be that compass which can actually go ahead and set up a pillar for the workforce to embrace or to digress, as the case may be. And the role of a WFM leader would be either to step up or to step down as the situation may demand. And it could be, I'm sure everybody who is there on this discussion has absolutely been experiencing that over at least last 2 to 6 weeks, depending on which part of the geography have they been touching, teaching, or transforming their lives and workforce and the drivers. I think an important element when I say cash is king, it is not the cliched CFO statement. It is about being that fulcrum who can actually make and mar the success or failure. At this stage, from a pandemic point of view, it will be important to slightly let go on the focus on service level. When there is a tsunami, there is only as much as can be done in terms of protecting, using a protective wall, right? And I think the service level element should be absolutely not focused on from a WFM leader's drive point of view, however passionate we may be wanting to focus on getting the right skill and right people at right time. I think the drive would be all across in terms of being able to step up and identify innovatively what is the solution that will actually work in a given environment. And then obviously everybody matters, everybody contributes, nobody leaves the bed to say today I will do a lousy job. So the perspective is everybody matters, and that's the context of respect and appreciate. The conversational drive is an important element because that's the latest intelligence which is going to play as COVID-19 unfolds. So I think coming back, all elements that is associated with a WFM domain and discipline is cardinally very important. However, the drive of the value vector of the compass and the transformer from a WFM leader role point of view is where the drive should be focused on. With that, I will sort of pause and hand it over to you, Shiva.
Thanks, Verint. We'll go with Satyajit.
Hey, Siva. Thank you. So good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Satya.
Yes, okay. Call can hear you.
Great. Okay, thanks. Hey, so good day, everyone. I know people are in the different parts of the world, so not sure it's evening or morning or night, but good day. I hope that's relevant to everyone. I want to start with thanking Shiva. Shiva, I think this is probably the second session that you have put together. I think the previous one was also very insightful, and this time I see quite a significant amount of people who've joined this. So thanks for organizing this. I think everyone is benefiting from these sessions. Sunil, thanks for bringing in the technology piece of it and talking about how all these different platforms. I'm not going to take too long, but I just wanted to share some of my experiences and what we have seen in the last 3 to 4 weeks working in AGS, and how we've managed 6 different geographies spanning about 40,000 employees. But at the core of it, from a WFM standpoint, if you look at it, I think everything from a practicality standpoint, I think this is probably the first time in our lives where we are managing BCP to such a large extent and scope simultaneously. I think every time in the past we've seen managing it in small spurts or in different areas where either there is a typhoon or a bushfire or an earthquake, but this is probably something that we have never dealt with and this came as a surprise for most of us. Some of the things that I've seen and from our observation in the last 4 to 6 weeks is every company is at a different stage of how well they have been able to implement their work at home and enable that successfully. Some organizations that Srikanth mentioned, I think they are already 100% work at home. A lot of centers, especially the so-called captive centers or in-house centers, I think they are the ones who are hit the most with about 40 to 50% shortages in their staff compared to the outsourced world where it's a gap of almost about 25 to 30%. If you think about it, what really is a game changer there? What really made a difference there is, and that's where exactly WFM comes into play, is how well did you plan for this entire BCP, and how agile is your organization to make the right decision at the right time. There are a lot of other things that come into play, like Vineet mentioned, cash is king, right? I mean, not only from a CFO standpoint, as you rightly mentioned, Vineet, but how well are you utilizing it and how quickly you're taking the right decision where you have to use it. Your agility, your decision making, and your resourcefulness to take the right decision on what you need to prioritize. I think every organization has some opportunities coming out of this COVID situation, as well as some challenges that they've seen. Talking about our organization where I'm at AGS, we are seeing about 6 to 7 new opportunities which have come in different markets because of this situation as well. That's purely because how well you are attacking the problem and how well you are able to enable your people at home. How do you do that? I think it boils down to only 3 things: your equipment, your connectivity, your training ability, and your speed of enabling work at home. I think these are the 4 main practical aspects of how you can do it. I think most of us come from an outsourced world here, where everybody is kind of working from a brick and mortar model, most of it, and not many people have been prepared to take work at home. So I think these 4 components are probably the most important one, and that's where you start believing. You have to see how well you can start planning, and were you ahead of the curve in terms of getting the equipment ready? Do you have connectivity? Now, whether you have connectivity, what kind of challenges you are facing in that? The first roadblock is the approvals from the client itself. How do you overcome that? Once you've done that, then comes your next stage where people start talking about what are your security compliance, what's your data productivity, data protection when people are working from home. All those kind of things have started coming in, and it's all about preparedness on how well you've thought through this plan and started implementing it. I'm also seeing that a lot of low-hanging fruits in the organizations, where I started seeing team leaders helping each other by creating simple documents of how to use a VPN. I mean, as simple as connecting to VPN from home. A lot of agents don't know that because they have not been exposed to that, right? They don't know how to use softphone because that was not enabled before. They're all used to taking calls from in the office only. How to troubleshoot different kind of technical problems at home. I'm seeing a lot of collaboration happening between teams, which was not seen in the past, right? While they were working in the office, because these problems didn't come up only. So these kind of things I'm seeing are helping our people. One of the most important things that I'm seeing that our team is working on is clients are not open to calls which have let's say credit card information or things like that, but you had equipments or security procedures in the office that you could have implemented and you were able to work on those. But now, since agents are working from home, how do you enable that, or do you want to let go of that volume for the time being, right? So we have a solution which is integrated with technology and with security policies that our transformation team has come up with, which is in the testing phase right now. So all these things have to come together. But as I think Shrikant mentioned in his session, it requires a steering committee who can think through what are those practical aspects of day-to-day nuances that you'll have to think through while implementing such a large-scale BCP across different geographies, keeping in mind the geographical nuances as well. Proud to say, on a scale of 40,000, currently we're about 85 to 90% work at home, successfully working, give and take a few here and there, depending upon the different geographies we are in. So I think the key element here, I would say, is taking the right decision at the right time and thinking through of this entire BCP situation over a long period of time on how you have to work through it, rather than looking at an immediate short-term gain. How do you have to probably think through on how it is going to benefit in the long run and work towards it. That has been my experience the last 3 to 4 weeks, 6 weeks, apart from staying home. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, I request any of you have questions, you can click on the hand button, which shows as a hand raised. I'll unmute you so that you can ask your question. Over to you, all audience. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. While audience raise their hands, I've not seen anything so far. Over to Rajiv. Rajiv can share his perspective, and then we'll take it forward with the Q&A.
Hey, thanks, Shiva.
Over to you, Rajiv.
I've been speaking to a lot of IT guys, largely keeping my perspective to IT, and workforce management. The first step which happened when most of the countries went into a lockdown, and I speak with high reference to India here, because we saw a shutdown into the country with a 4-hour notice from the Prime Minister of the country. And I think the first and foremost part which everybody wanted to get involved with was BCP, right? And at that moment of time, I think most of the BCP mechanisms and and things possibly did not work that well. All of us are used to a scenario where we have multiple sites in multiple cities. We have multiple sites in multiple countries, and one site goes down, the second site takes over. And this was, I think, the first time in many years where we saw a scenario where all the sites were down, possibly together, right? And everybody had to maintain a BCP. So within the 4 hours, everybody mobilized whatever best they could have done in a manner to work from home. My reference to multiple IT companies where we have hundred thousands of employees working in offices, hundreds and thousands of employees, right? It was not easy because of the factor that not everyone carried laptops. A lot of us were used to dealing with desktops, right? And at that moment of time, it was workforce management, HR, BCP teams, delivery teams, facilities management teams. All of these teams worked together to work out a very chaotic plan, which they could have managed in 4 hours in the first shot. And maybe, though it was the country went into a lockdown, still, since it takes time to get into a lockdown implementation, I think people did use the next 48 hours also to push in some level of hardware at the employee end, so that the critical operations can be managed. Did workforce management play a very classical role of workforce management at that time? Answer is no. Right? They played heroics. They looked at the data. It was very important. They were the large contributors of data to the BCP team, because most of the operations which were running, or most of the projects which were running, not all of them were running on 100% capacity. Which one to do, which one is not important, which one can be slow, which employee have to be enabled. I think the delivery team as well as the workforce management team did a fair good amount of coordination to keep the things around. Right? Keep in mind that multiple IT companies here support the banking systems. Multiple IT companies support the securities and the trading system. Multiple of them support the healthcare systems. Multiple of them support the online retail systems, right? And happy to say one thing that across multiple companies, I have not heard a single case where a country online shopping has gone down, or the sites have gone down, or the banking systems have crashed just because the IT companies supporting them could not manage the BCP, or the stock trading stopped. Right, nothing. I think the critical operations of every country was done well. Right, really kudos to to the BCP teams. Really kudos to the delivery team, and I'm sure workforce management team actually supported the game, by crossing the line of what their classical workforce management definition was. Right. Having said that, we really don't know when these countries will lift the shutdown, and when will they take it away. Not sure. All of us hope and pray it moves faster. All of us hope and pray that the damage because of COVID on the health of employees and people is not there, or is minimal, right? But looking at the seriousness of the issues, there is a lot of ambiguity to what countries will have to do to keep the impact as minimal as much as possible. We are still unclear, waiting for government directions in terms of whether it's going to be a complete lift of shutdown, or it's going to be an extension of shutdown, or a shutdown will be localized to very specific corners of a city where they see some kind of an impact. And accordingly, the workforce management will have to keep on supporting the business groups in the days to come. In all their actions and the tasks, like what Vineet said, you'll have to step up the game and you have to step down the game. From a longer term perspective, at least what I'm hearing, and I'm going to be slightly open in communicating on this, that there's definitely a boardroom botheration that after post-COVID, right, and if situations improves in few months' time, right, all the companies in the business will definitely be left with a bruised top line. Right? They would be definitely left with an impacted top line. Right? The businesses have been shut down for a few weeks, and in some countries it has been shut down for a few months. All these companies are service providers to somebody, so the clients' businesses have been impacted, right? There have been retailers, their malls and their shops have been closed for a fairly long time. If there have been auto manufacturers, I don't think that they have sold cars and bikes on the road for a fairly long time, right? So there's a business impact, and which is going to cascade across various companies, which means that once the COVID pain goes away, which, as he said, we hope and pray that is as minimal as much as possible, from the health of employees and the health of people around us and health of our clients. What it's going to leave behind is a huge economic problem. And to people whom I have spoken to till now, all of them, the workforce management groups are very, very actively working out, right, on what is going to be the strategy post-COVID. There are certain businesses which are less impacted. Like if you're serving in healthcare, possibly your needs on workforce have increased there, and people are working to reskill some from places where the impacts on the workforce is going to be higher. I understand that cost reduction, salary cuts, layoffs are not good word to speak upon, but from a workforce management standpoint of view, right, people need to be geared up to hear not only the good words, but they also need to be conscious about that there are some hard realities of life which are going to hit them. And a lot of good workforce management guys have already started preparing data with respect to which businesses are good, where are the business continuities required are higher, where the businesses are going to continue, where are there opportunities, which people are required, which people may not be required in a longer run. Do we reskill them? Do we put a pay cut onto them? Do we let them go out of the system after a certain time with the due considerations and like? I think those are the activities which the workforce management team is gearing up to do now. Right? At this moment of time, it's all about data crunching for them. They're eyes and ears of the top management. Whatever information they feed, to the top management, right? The management team is going to take a lot of decisions basis that. The abilities of the workforce management really depends upon on going through granularity of data about employees, right, and ensuring that the management takes decision in their wisdom, which is fair, which is right from a short-term perspective and also from a long-term perspective. So that's how what I see it. That the role of workforce management is going to become very critical in few days' time. The teams are expected to produce data sets which are in as detail as much as possible on which employees are of more value in the new change environment, which of them have to be reskilled, which of them have to be let go. All that is an area which may be of very high consideration now. Right. So in all honesty, I see lesser amount of recruitment going on in future, at least for next 6 months. And that pushes the workforce management team to really go back and look at how to use the current set of employees, what they have, in the best possible manner, without hurting the employees or with minimal hurt to the employees, and also revive back the businesses as the businesses come back onto operations in days to come. Shiva, so if there are any questions, happy to answer. I definitely have a question for Satyajit in case he is there still online. Satya,
I'm here. Yeah, Rajiv, I'm here. Go ahead.
Satya, so from your experience, how much of your operations were you able to shift from work from home? Or how much percentage of the operations got shifted in that last minute scramble of few hours in which you had to maneuver a lot of laptops and infrastructure to the homes of individuals?
See, I would say in the last 3 weeks, okay, we have probably moved about 75% of our workforce to work from home now. A lot of them did not have laptops, but we've shipped their desktops home to enable them, and then as and when we could get through from a connectivity standpoint, provide whatever connectivity from either a dongle or a SIM card or whatever we could have given to them as the second set of installations there. We've done that, but over a period of three weeks across different geographies, and I would say India and Philippines were probably the more critical ones. US, it was not as difficult to enable that, but about 75% of the workforce in India and about similar numbers in Philippines as well that we've enabled work from home in the last 3 weeks, I would say.
And Satya, since you guys service a lot of calls from your clients, did you see the call volume going up during this time, or did you see the call volumes going downward from the countries which you are supporting?
It's a good question, Rajiv. It's a mix by the portfolio, the vertical that you're in, right? I mean, we've seen some surge in volume in the healthcare industry, some surge in the telecom industry, also in logistics work that we've seen some of the volume has gone beyond what we were expecting. But obviously there are travel and transportation that we've seen completely dry down. So it's a mixed bag, but I think it depends upon the kind of portfolio industry that you see. But I would say overall, I would say still it is about 10 to 15% lower than what it would have been in a normal situation. Specifically in the healthcare side, we are expecting it to go up post 60 to 90 days and see a huge surge there because a lot of healthcare professionals and other employees and facilities and our professionals are busy with supporting this current situation rather than being engaged in what they would have done otherwise. So everything is kind of curtailed and delayed and pushed out by a few months, but we do expect that volume to go up after 60 days probably.
And so 2 more questions. One, if you have to move people from non-healthcare industry to healthcare industry, assuming that there's a surge in calls there, right? How much amount of cross-skilling or how much amount of time frame of cross-skilling will it usually take to maneuver people to shift from one side of the bucket of business to second bucket of business?
I think irrespective of the situation, it's a long process, right? Healthcare, again, whether are you supporting simplistic provider calls, or are you into a payer call member support? It can define the training duration and how long you'll take to upskill them. But obviously, it's not an easy process. There are a lot of compliance requirements as well before you can move people. Compared to healthcare, the others, I would say, except BFSI, the requirements are a little stringent there. So you have to first check whether all those requirements are met or not, and then from a training standpoint, it's an easy 6 to 8 weeks. So we haven't seen a movement from a non-healthcare to healthcare yet in our portfolios. There may be some small bit of it, but a very handful of it. But on a large scale, we haven't seen that. We are still holding on to what we had from an existing headcount standpoint.
Yeah, so there's a question for me as well. One question. Hi, Satya, this is Sunil. What has been the general trend? I mean, and to all the panelists, what's the general trend now since people are working from home and there are, of course, changed hours and you're short of manpower as well. What has happened to the net production hours from each individual? I mean, are they working more number of hours? How are we catering to that? And if they can work more number of hours, how's the local regulation of 40 hours, 45 hours that the state governments have in some places? You know, how are you factoring that in, and how is the business or the operation stabilizing around that?
So I'll try and take a stab at that, Sunil, first, Satya. Yeah. So, at an agent at the frontliner level, right, I think we are sticking to the regular norms, the working norms of given to by the labor code itself, right? I don't think we are going beyond that. The challenging piece is that we need to be sure of whether we're tracking the productivity accurately or not. Since we are still adjusting to work from home, especially the frontliners, I think it's still taking a bit of time where we set down all the and set up all the processes the right way. But I think we'll leave the frontliners to stick to their own schedules and not change it from a hour standpoint. For a support, I would say I think again, people in US are more accustomed to working from home, so they know how to follow the schedules. I think for everybody else, I would say, especially India here in Philippines, I think people are, just because they're home and they feel that this is a critical situation, they need to be on top of everything. I personally feel I think people are putting far more hours than they usually do, but I think the situation demands that as well right now. Frontliners, we're sticking to the regular scheduling norms.
So the same thing which I've spoken to a lot of people. At this moment of time, employees are sensitive that they're important to the operations of their clients, and in many cases they are putting much more number of hours than what they should have been regularly putting it, right? And it's very voluntary from their end. Very nice gesture. They understand that their companies need them. And I think there is they are doing their best. Obviously, there is a set of employees which are not that equipped or which are ill-equipped, or their businesses, as you know what Satyajit said, had even decrease in the volumes, right? And at this moment of time, I think there's a spread. There are a certain set of people which are overloaded. There's a certain set of people which are underloaded, right? And the wrong time to really do any load balancing at this moment of time. Right, at this moment of time, whatever works best. Once the thing starts stabilizing and normalizing, right, then I think it's important to really do some kind of work.
Thank you for that perspective from both of you. And because one of the things I was reading into it was, yes, there will be certain individuals who will end up working more. And the reason is very evident. If you have only moved 70% of your work home, but the volumes have only gone down by 10%, there is a big gap, and it has to be fulfilled in some manner. And that being the case, people will work out. But the governance around local bodies and the local work rules, how do they kick in? How do we control that? I think that's out of the window, is what you're saying for the moment?
Yeah, for a moment, Satya, I'm not sure that even the local governance bodies are even bothered about they themselves are really slogging to keep the epidemic under control. So in all honesty, I think at this moment of time, if we can do well for the society, for the clients, that's more valued rather than sticking to a norm of a work-life balance in place.
Right. And of course, login hours are what we are looking at, and that's easy to account for in the contact center space because of, we have the login hours coming in from the ACD itself. But I'm sure many of you are handling non-voice processes where workforce management does the capacity plan. But how do we, count up for or account for the fulfillment from the supply side? When I say these individuals are supposed to give me 10 hours in a day in these days, how do we account for those hours? What are you using to assess that that in a non-voice process? And I don't even mean email chats, etc. I just mean processing, backend processing, if it is they're handling. How do you measure how many hours they've actually put in? They may be logged in for 10 hours, but how much actually in production?
Question is, Sunil, is that the right priority question for people to do at this moment? Right.
The reason I asked,
managing their client operations, even if they've logged in for 10 hours and if they've actually done it in 4 hours, or if they've logged in for 10 hours and consumed all 10 hours, I think at this moment of time, everything is free and and okay, right? We've been just into it for last few weeks, right? I think that much buffer any company would maintain into their KPIs, that would not really get too active in analyzing this phase as far as the productivity norms are concerned.
all right, because, well, I thought because there is so much workload, we may want to, have a proper measure of how it's getting consumed.
Yeah. So at this moment of time, Sunil, more amount of caution is, if there's a process you are supposed to maintain for a client, have you broken it? Is there an issue behind it, right? And that's one more question which I wanted to ask Satyajit. Satyajit, do you, from all your operations which your company is running, did you see any real critical client operation, right? Going to a huge shutdown where the client services got disrupted?
Yeah.
Any operations of yours from a customer perspective which completely broke off? And I'm coming from an article. There's some great news writer in Telegraph and some other newspapers in UK who wrote on a beautiful article saying that since they had outsourced to India, Philippines, China, and some other countries, right? A lot of their banking operations and all have got impacted, and I'm yet to find one which has got impacted. So really wanted to know, did you really see some? Was the BCPs and was the delivery able to scale up to this challenge, or did you see some operations of the customers really got hurt for, let's say, 24 hours, 48 hours, or maybe for a longer duration, where it really got hurt for this mass scale work from home operation?
Yeah, so I think I will put it into the category of 70-20-10. So 70% of our customers have at least in my portfolio, have very categorically stated that they are delighted about the fact that Concentrix could rise up to the occasion and ensure in whichever shape and form the continuity was maintained. And I think you brought the context out very well. From an India point of view, the lockdown was 4 hours. That was the duration that was provided. I think government has been fairly collaborative. I mean, at least I think getting the emergency passes and high level of cadence and governance that entire government machinery has been undertaking ensured that there was continuity that was provided. So coming back to answer specifically, I think it took us almost about 10 hours. That was the reaction duration that came across in most of the way. However, we were fortunate also to have it planned from an India standpoint. We knew what was coming. And again, from my portfolio point of view, we did experience it in China, and that was subsequently followed at Korea. And in both the cases, China was the first one. 3 days, 72 hours. Almost about 60% of our capacity was in was in place. We could not deliver onto the 75% part, but that required us to procure some of the laptops, because typically from our seat utilization standpoint, while desktops were getting shipped up, we operate for some of the large part of our programs is at about, well, I'm revealing some of the trade secrets, but and anywhere between 1.1 to about 1.7. That's the range in which seat utilization actually happens. So whereby almost, let's say, two people used to use the same PC. If it was being shipped at home, obviously that was constraining the capacity, so to say. And in order to augment that, one had to do procurement. So I think those were the elements that we had to grapple with at China. We were far more better prepared when it happened at Philippines and India, and New Zealand, of course, came across later, but we were far better. I mean, to that extent, at New Zealand, it is 100% setup. One, from a demographic point of view, the workforce is fairly used to working out of home, and they would have their independent office spaces in their homes for them to take a voice call, if I can use that. So each of the country had its own specific uniqueness. And as I was sharing, I mean, 70% of the customers will put them into a delighted, satisfied category. 10% of our customers definitely had implication, but that was only because the approvals that we should have been receiving, and which we had been actually working out with them collaboratively, they specifically delayed the whole approval process, wanting to work around their way, waiting to, and I will call it as an ostrich behavior than anything else, waiting for the imminent to happen. So I think that's a long answer to your short question. 10% of our customers, because of the reason that they did not give us the timely approval, and obviously we are constrained with passes, so I think they are facing the brunt right now. But
thanks, Vineet. Really good. So, Shiva, can we open it up to the audience in case they have any questions?
Yeah, hi, I have a question. And this is to the entire panel,
This is
not to anyone. Yeah, sorry. So I was reading an article while we as WFM professionals, we are planning on cost optimization, resource optimization, and a lot of data crunching, right? And as you mentioned, Rajiv, that we are eyes and ears of the management, right? So I read an article wherein Citel is hiring about 10,000 plus employees from work from home perspective. Now that brick and mortar is not there, and so I did not really understand the logic behind this hiring process, wherein there are people wherein their jobs are in jeopardy as of now from a brick and mortar perspective. And apart from that, we are like hiring 10,000 plus employees for work from home. So what could be the reason, Rajiv or Vineet, anyone, what could be the reason, I mean, behind that hiring process? So I could not understand that.
okay, so
Take a shot.
okay, so let me share some of the perspectives here, right? In your mind, are governments setting up special help desks called COVID help desks across the globe, specifically when it comes to European governments, Latin American governments, US in itself, Australia, New Zealand? I think there have been paid call center help desks that have been set up for providing the right level of inquiries, so to say. That is a temporary demand that has got generated specifically to address the COVID-19 cases. Second component, which where there is a set of now okay, let me talk about the paradox. Airline industry business has completely gone into a topsy-turvy. We all know for sure that if you open the website, obviously it will talk of fleet cancelled, fleet abandoned, etc. International flights or domestic flights across spectrum. Surprise, right? Why is there a volume that is getting generated? Again, a temporary phenomena. So while the business has dwindled by almost as high as about 90 to 95% of some of our clients, which are big brands, but in reality, what has translated into is a complete decline, complete uptake on the volume. And let's say esoterically, if we were to think of it this way, a customer who has booked an airline ticket will obviously call, and then would follow it up with another set of call to check the status of the refunds, etc., right? And obviously, where there is a capacity constraint already on account of COVID-19, there's only a bubble that will keep on building up on account of the repeat call abandons, etc., that we all are fairly familiar of. So I think while businesses may appear to be, and it's the right question that you have asked, while businesses may ensure that we have received right level of dimensions from an economic standpoint, reality is that there will be some of those paradoxes that I just described, which will be evident, which will require. Now, when Cycle or whosoever is hiring, in reality, it will be a temporary staffing, bubble staffing that will come across, and that's why they are talking of work at home. And at Concentrix, I know for sure we have created two broad categories of solutions that we are actually selling. One, we are calling it as enterprise work at home, which is a marquee work at home that we provide. And second is what we call as a pandemic work at home. And there is recruitment that we are undertaking for pandemic work at home by doing a mismatch, by doing a matching of supply from one program to another, one location to another location, load balancing, etc., that gets associated there. So I think those are some of the contextual perspectives that I thought I'll just share with you. Rajiv, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, but
no, this is good. This is good. I think this is good. It's in the same manner. If you go to US today, Amazon is hiring the frontline staff and deliver staff too much, right? One, there's volume which is increasing in specific areas, and secondly, there's absenteeism also in some areas, right, which is increasing, right? So in order to balance both the thing, right, the volume increases as well as the absenteeism, right? People are looking for people, right? Some of the statements may get bloated by 10,000 or 20,000. That does not matter. There's an advertising element to everything in life, right? So I'll leave it at that. But I think I think some of it is extra preparedness for a temporary movement. That's what you said.
Okay, I will not take too much of time. Just a last question. So while we have, I mean, as everyone mentioned that while we have a couple of clients where we did not get approval, right, for work from home, there are certain PCI compliance. I come from a telecom and healthcare industry and been in this industry for almost 10 to 11 years now. So instead of hiring, are we not looking at cross-skilling those folks wherein we did not get approval from clients? Maybe for PCI compliance, or client from a healthcare industry because of HIPAA and all, they are not able to work from home and they have actually nothing left in hand. Are we not looking at utilizing those resources and equip them with required infrastructure and help these sector which really requires attention? Maybe we can cover up the gap of shrinkages on cross utilizing them. So I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
sorry, maybe it was connection at my end. Rajiv, will you want to take that first?
My answer is everybody is attempting to do cross skilling. There's no doubt, because layoff is a last resort. Right? Layoff is a last resort. It's as sensitive as getting communicated with the Prime Minister of the country also. You imagine the sensitivity which everybody has towards, because this is not a regular time. This is an issue getting created largely because of health, and that moment of time, last which the leaders want is to lay off people, right? So that's the last resort. So the attempt is always to cross skill people and place them onto a process which requires more people. But having said that, you have to also give a lot of respect to the process in which you are putting people. Okay. If something cannot be managed by a short-term cross-skilling, right? You don't do that, right? You don't have trained surgeons to provide heart surgery, right? You don't quickly just put in very quickly trained person just because the person was available, right? So you have to make a very cautious call of is the new process which where you're seeing load, is it can you just train quickly people and just place in, right? And alternative. But again, I think by default, first attempt is training and grooming and reshuffling people, right? And the second step is to really hire people. And sometimes it is a blend of both. When you're formulating a team of 20 people, right, you will like to bring in a blend of 8 experts or 8 people who have got experience in that area and 12 people who possibly are trained from that area, right? So you mix up the two.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate Rajiv and Vineet and everyone.
Thank you.
Any questions? Sorry, Vineet, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm good. I think just one perspective. I think what will be also important is to look at the fatigue factor of any as I was talking earlier, also unknown of unknowns. So I think fatigue factor is an important one that needs to be considered, and it is only imperative as we become red and white heroes in dealing with it. Question is, what is the extent of sustainability as the lockdown continues? Is that tipping point going to come on 30th April? Is that going to be on 15th May, or is that going to be as early as 15th April? I mean, we don't know right now, and none of the WFM leaders by and large are neuroscientists, and possibly that is one dimension of skilling that one may want to look at. But having said that, I think reskilling and Rajiv, I think you summed it beautifully. But I think reskilling is an element which right now may be greed driven, hunger driven, curiosity driven, or maybe need driven. I mean, we still will have to cross that journey of evaluating what it will take.
Any other questions, please, from the team? And if not, I would first like to thank the panelists as well as partnership of organizing this, as well as the team which attended and listened very patiently for last 1.5 hours. Right? And Shiva, handing it over back to you.
And a big thanks from Verint as well.
Thanks, Rajiv. Thanks, Vineet.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva and
Satya.
Thank you so much, all of you. Wonderful perspective. And I'm sure people who are into workforce management will have a lot of points to deliberate on, and probably we will formulate things which are challenges right now in our own organization, and probably come out faster of the trouble that we are in right now. And searching where we are in the wheel, I do not know whether that is important or to ensure that the business continues the way it can best continue. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for all your inputs, and thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you, and to all the audience, please remain safe and please keep your family safe. Thank you.
Yep. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been organized in association with GWFM and Verint. Thank you so much for your insights, Sunil. And we will have question and answer offline, and we'll just thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Shiva.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.